Bow our heads, please. Heavenly Father, we come together this evening determined to lead and mindful of our purpose. We ask that you bless this meeting with your wisdom and your presence. Guide our actions as this council works to serve the best interests of the good people of the great town of West Warwick. Amen.
Amen. Jay, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Do you want to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Yeah, he's not here.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We were wondering what Jay was talking to.
Councilman Licciardi,
Here.
Councilman Messia,
Here.
Councilman Padula,
He's outside.
Council Vice President D'Amico.
Here.
Council President Goslin.
Here.
There is a quorum on record.
Councilor Padula just entered.
West Warwick Public School 5-year capital improvement plan for 2018 to 2023.
Good evening. Sorry it took so long. Fell a little behind.
Nope, no problem. I'm Karen Tarasevich, Superintendent of Schools, 10 Harris Avenue, West Warwick. Good evening, President Goslin, Councilman. Thank you for having us on the agenda for tonight's meeting. We're here to present the school department's 5-year plan, 5-year capital improvement plan we intend to submit to the Rhode Island Department of Education for approval. Prior to that submission, we're required to have town council support, and that is our intention for being before you this evening. The plan has been developed considering our building needs and working with our architect to best prioritize and create the best plan. I'm sure you've all heard of the Jacobs report, and that is a report the state generated which gave an overview for every district in the state and their facility needs. Our report was excellent with very few priority areas or 1s or 2s as the report identifies as priority areas. This positive review and report is due to the diligence of the maintenance department and facilities headed by Ken Townsend, and staying on top of routine maintenance and upkeep of our school buildings has allowed for us to avoid any major issues or necessary repairs. Joe Spagner, our Director of Finance, is here tonight to explain the funding portion of the plan. However, if you recall back in 2015 when we came before the Town Council to present our FY16 budget, we discussed our surplus at that time and our intention to establish a capital improvement fund dedicated to the work that would be described in our plan tonight. We knew at this time it would come, and at the very least, we would need to be replacing roofs and windows, etc., of the original buildings. We committed to this fund to support capital improvements on the town's buildings without asking for any increase in revenue in another effort to support the town's fiscal situation. Here we are 3 years later and are here tonight with the plan to do just that. This plan is based on no additional revenue requests from the town to support our capital improvement plan as we will present tonight. So Joe Spagna is here to go over the funding portion of the plan, but first we'll have Kenny Townsend come up and actually talk about the projects that are actually in the plan. Thank you.
As Karen just explained, Jacobs architectural and engineering firm did a full audit of all the West Warwick public schools. We received that audit in 2017, and then the school committee hired our own architectural firm to come in and do an audit across to their recommendations. And what you have in front of you is what's come out of both those audits and what the priorities are in the school district at this time. The front page, which is broken out in fields and grounds, building envelope, building interior, roofing, mechanical, plumbing, and electrical. This is the way RIDE wants it submitted for our 5-year capital plan. The second page simplifies it, pretty much tells us what we're doing. Greenbush, the elementary school, we've replaced the flat roofs already on that building since it's been built, but the shingle roofs haven't been replaced. It's 30 years old. Their life expectancy and the roof is leaking. Quinn School is also over the gymnasium cafeteria is shingled roof that also needs replacing. It's met its age. The high school, we're looking at putting a freight farm in. That's a hydroponic farm. We're using it for educational purposes along with working with Sodexo in growing lettuce to support the food program at the school. The following year, we're looking at replacing the high school clock and intercom system. This leads back to the addition that happened in '98. Those systems are barely functioning and we can't make any upgrades to them anymore, and if they break, we're in trouble. And the last thing is the middle school windows. Middle school windows, number one, don't close, they fall open, and they're also a danger to the students. And the fact that a window could be open and a kid could fall out the window. So we want to get those replaced as soon as we can. The other projects that I have listed there, upcoming projects, as you received in your packets was the budget that we're looking to have funding come from the governor's program, where she wants to put $500 million back into public schools. When we originally met with RIDE and sat down with RIDE to develop this plan, they told us to, trying to think of the proper term, overfund by 50%. The rules and regulations of RIDE and Rhode Island Construction is that we have to spend at least 50% of what we budgeted to get our housing aid back. So we submitted stage 2 for review, and when we got the review back, they said, no, we can't accept this, so I had to revise my budget, and that's what you're seeing today. So as the upcoming projects, if more money becomes available, I'm able to get the roof done at a cheaper price than $700,000. The 2 intercom systems are almost $800,000. We're hoping to do those in-house with my own electrician, which means we just buy the material, we're not paying the labor and the labor rates to have those installed. So with that leftover money, these are the other projects that we want to attack and are listed and have been sent to RIDE. Any questions?
Any questions for Ken?
Just one, just curiosity. If the money becomes available, say for the roof, it doesn't cost $756, costs $656, you have $100,000 left, and you want to do an upcoming project, are those going to be tacked on to post-2021? Or is that something you're looking at, kind of intermingling
When we
that?
get our 5-year plan approved, RIDE and the Rhode Island Construction and Housing does not care how fast we do the plan.
Okay.
So all our designs will be submitted, approved, all we gotta do is go back each time, once the draft and the documents are all put together for approval, to go out to bid and stuff like that. So we can do the project as fast as we want, as long as we have the money. There's other opportunities for us in the school department. There's a pay-as-you-go program. We have to apply for that. It opens in October. We're actually gonna apply for that for the 2 intercom systems. So if we get accepted into that program, as soon as we purchase the intercom systems, we get our reimbursement back right away. If that happens, it allows us to spend more money out in other years. So those are programs that we're looking into right away as soon as we get this approved.
That's great.
Ken, what's the building envelope? What does that
Exterior
include?
building.
That's
windows.
just the exterior?
Yeah.
Okay. Because it does mention field and grounds, but this is just the outside, the actual
Yes,
outside of the
the
building.
outside of the building, roofs, windows, painting.
Any other questions for Ken?
No.
Thank you, Ken. Joe's the money
So-
guy.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. Like Ken said, the second letter that was handed out, this is second to what we had initially submitted to you. RIDE came back with a few changes they needed us to make to our budget so it would be acceptable by them. So it's just an updated version. It doesn't exceed the amount of money we'd already planned to do, and the funding that we planned to do, it actually is a little bit less. We just had to restructure some things. Instead of going through and reading this letter word for word, I just want to highlight a few things. Back in September of 2016, the school committee did approve the creation of our capital projects fund and did authorize a $1 million transfer of our cumulative reserve into that fund, okay? So I just want to make that known. But on the second page, there's a chart at the top that actually goes through year-to-year funding. You'll see, if you look under FY19, there's a beginning balance line. It's $919,800. That's because of that $1,080,200 was already utilized. We did it in 2017. So the combination of those two amounts utilized already in the 919 is the million. In this, when we get housing aid reimbursed based on our free and reduced lunch models and some calculations that RIDE uses. And currently, when I looked at the latest report, we're at about a 66% reimbursement. But for purposes of this funding, I use 60% to leave a little bit of room there for conservatism. Every year, they adjust that number up and down because the amount of free and reduced lunches that we get changes every year. In March is when I believe they do the next update. So I use 60% to give us some of that wiggle room. Then we go into the housing aid received. And like Ken said, if we can apply, the way it works right now and the way this is funded, it all depends on the amount of money you spend when you get that money back. If you spend $200,000, you'll get your 60% back the following year. $300,000 or more could take over 2 years. So forth, it goes higher and higher, up to 10 years. Our highest project is a 4-year reimbursement. If you look at the amount utilized, that $963,240 ties to the budget that Kenny has put together. I'd say about $840,000 of that, we'll get 60% of that back, but we'll get it over a 4-year period. It's not all in one time. And if we do get approved for that pay-as-you-go, it changes the formula here completely.
Is it 60% funded after you spend it? Or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. We would spend it, and then we'd submit it for funding. When the project's complete, you do a form at the end of the year by June 30th, and then they fund based off of that. So keep that, I just want to keep that in mind when you're looking at this. We're not getting it all right away. If we did, we'd be able to do quite a bit more projects than we have on this schedule right now. The transfers in represent the amount of the cumulative reserve that we're anticipating we need. The fund cannot end in a deficit position in any year, and because of that extended timing of getting reimbursement, as we spend, you'll see 2 of the higher projects on the first 2 years, we're going to go into a deficit, so we need to take some of our reserve, put it in there to balance the fund. And then over time, we'll get that money back. And just like I said, the amount utilized line on the bottom just shows the cost of the projects that Kenny has put in place that we plan on doing. The other, and to answer the question that came over here too, we can do these projects as fast as we want. As long as it's within the 5-year plan and it's approved, we can do them as much as we want. If we find that we are sitting on extra money because Ken's guys can save us a lot of money and we've completed all these projects, we have 2 options. We can end this 5-year plan and reapply for another 5-year plan at that point in time, maybe 3 or 4 years from now. Or I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Kenny, we can actually go for an amendment and ask them to allow us to pull in some of those other plans or projects that we have in place that we know we have to do, but may not be included in this 5-year plan. So there's a lot that we can do. And it all is going to depend on the governor's proposal, and if that proposal happens, there's going to be a lot more opportunity for us to get a lot more done. In looking at this, the school committee will probably contribute, if it happens exactly like it's laid out right here, about $1.8 million of reserve money into this fund, but we'll receive back $1,059,000 in aid. That's only through 22. A couple $100,000 of that we won't get back until 23 and 24, so it's not included on here. So that shows you that we're going to get a lot of money, a lot of bang for our buck, basically. Without getting into reading word for word, are there any questions on that? Does that make sense to you?
No, any questions for Joe? Any public comment on that? Thank you, Joe. With that being said, no public comment? So they just need approval from us as a town council. So I'll take a roll call vote. Jay?
Yes.
Angelo?
Yes.
Jason? Yes. John?
Yes.
And I vote yes.
Good job.
Great program.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Sorry we kept you here so late.
Minutes of previous meeting, resolved that the minutes of the January 16th, January 30th of 2018, and February 6th of 2018 town council meetings are hereby accepted.
Move the resolution.
Second.
I have a question on
Well,
this.
let me second, and then we can discuss it. Who seconded it? You? Discussion? Okay.
Is, just for clarification purposes, we all know there was say call it a grievance, I guess, with the Attorney General regarding
Open Meetings Act.
regarding the Open Meetings Act. Do you know where we are with this? Is that, I don't wanna put my name on closing something if we have something that's currently open.
It's got nothing to do with that. The Attorney General's gonna make a ruling on the complaint, so a subsequent meeting, it's got nothing to do with that.
Okay.
And they have not issued a ruling yet.
So it has nothing to do with these minutes, whether
Absolutely
will
not.
we keep them open or close them, or?
Absolutely not.
Okay, thank you.
Is it now, need to turn the line? Can you hear us back there now? All right, that's better, thank you.
What's that?
The school that you just passed,
Just
so I
sign.
can get
You had a question answered, Jay?
tomorrow night.
It is, thank you.
Any public comment? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Consent agenda, license applications. Resolved that the consent agenda having been posted, all matters being referred to the proper departments and being disposed of are waiting recommendation, the same is hereby approved.
Move the resolution.
Second.
Moved and second, any discussion? Any public discussion? Jay?
I do on this. We're looking at the licenses, correct?
Yep.
I just want to give my point of view on this. It's a little cloudy, I understand, possibly to some people. We're approving licenses regarding, this is where I come from. I've been in recreation all my life. I don't believe that recreation or certain events should contain alcohol on town property. Now, I made a few votes. I didn't want to rock the boat. Didn't want to be the negative Nelly on all this, but my stance is, and you guys can disagree with me, that's fine, but this is where I'm coming from. I don't believe we should allow alcohol on town property. No, whether it's a craft fair, or I know Kelly Carlini has done so many events over there, and it's nothing personal. It could be Joe Smith on this form, and that's just my stance moving forward. So if this license is to approve alcohol on town property, then I would approve the other ones, I just wouldn't approve this one. And I would approve the event, it's nothing about the event, it could be event X. But when you throw alcohol in the mix, I just don't think it's a place for it. So-
Well, I agree with you, Jason, but seeing that we already opened up Pandora's box, and we set a precedent with the last one, I'm not voting against any other one to have alcohol. Because if you do it for one, we're gonna do it for them all. No matter what they do, what venue it is, I'm voting yes.
Well, if that's the case, then I think we should take the contract, and I've spoken with Lori.
Throw it
and
away.
That's Lori's job. And the contract, it says on one side, yes, there's a check for alcohol, and then on the other side, it says no alcohol. So I really think we have to look at the contract. If that's the way the council wants to go, then, and that's fine, and I'll accept that, but I think we need to revisit the contract
They are
and really fix.
They are redrafting the contract. as
How
we
can
speak.
you approve one, and I gotta say, I got tricked and it was my own fault last time.
We approved one in September as well, just to be
Well,
clear. The five
exactly,
of us- the
September
five of us-
19th. I
so the five of
understand
us.
that,
So
and that's what I just said.
So it wasn't just the last meeting, we've
No,
done,
not
we've
at
done
all.
it twice.
The contract.
So if
is
you were tricked
being-
last meeting, you were tricked in September as well.
The contract's gonna be revised. I'm gonna work with Lori on that. It's gonna be presented through the manager. Council can take a look at it, and then if there's any suggestions the council's gonna make, we can look at those too. But I mean,
Okay.
it is gonna be revised, so it's not gonna be as confusing or unclear.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Hoots, if you're gonna speak, you just go up to the mic.
Tom Oates, Colonial Way. I don't understand why we need to change the contract. I thought all we need is a Class P catering license which supersedes any municipal,
and that's
state,
gonna be
any
part-
municipal, state law or contract. So what's the point?
So, Tom, what Lori's looking at is
And I don't
possible.
believe that.
Hold on one second.
Thank you. You are correct.
What Lori's working on is possibly working with a few different caterers and whatever it may be, and then when the person who rents it, she's gonna give them, and she's also looking at pricing, possibly getting, and I don't wanna get into too much detail, but possibly getting a percentage of the catering, a percentage of the door gate, you know, so that's stuff that Lori's working on as we speak with
That-
the town manager, and then we're looking at bringing in more revenue up there.
That's a great thing. Bring all the revenue we can. However, before you start traipsing over this Class P license superseding any municipal law, any state law, or any contract, you need to talk to somebody that knows the law about those contracts, because it's not correct.
Tom, I'll give you, I'll email you tomorrow, but I do have Superior Court case law on it, and I'll send it over to you.
I would love to see that, because I have two lawyers that will definitely disagree with the interpretation of a Class
As
P
a
license.
lawyer, you can always find two lawyers to disagree with anything.
Yeah, that will totally disagree
With anything.
with the ruling made on a Class P license.
Thank you.
What's your opinion?
And he has the right to have it.
Correct, he is. He does have his right to have an opinion.
All right. Any other questions? Any other public comment? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm opposed. Are we talking as a whole?
Whole, I'm doing
Then I'm opposed.
4-1.
Consent agenda correspondence. Resolved that the consent agenda, having been posted, all matters being referred to the proper departments and being disposed or awaiting recommendation, the same is hereby approved.
Move the resolution.
Second.
Moving second. Discussion? Any public discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Theatrical performance shows and exhibit license. Resolved that the town council hereby approves the following application. Community marketing, attention Kelly Carlini. Dates and times, April 22nd, 2018, from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. April 29th of 18, from noon to 4 p.m. October 21st of 2018, from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the West Warwick Civic Center, 100 Factory Street.
Move the resolution.
Second.
Moving second. Discussion? Any public discussion?
Do any of these events, Laurie, are you? On these 3 dates, just to be clear, does any of these involve alcohol
Just come
in
to
the
microphone.
recreation center?
Kelly here?
She was here and,
Got late.
yeah, I got a little late,
Yes, it
so
does.
Yeah, the application says yes.
Okay, then I'm
One.
not.
I think one of them.
this is the only one.
I'm voting for the event without the alcohol, but if it all comes in one package, I'm not.
The April
I'm not voting
29th
for it.
has alcohol.
Yes. That is her.
And I'm voting for April
Flavor
22nd and
401.
October 21st, but not April 29th.
All right. Any other questions? Any public comment? So, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm opposed.
4-1. And make sure you put in the minutes that the reason why was because alcohol for April 29th.
Please.
Just for the, yeah.
So the record's clear, it's gonna be 5-0 for 422 and 1021.
Correct.
4-1 on 429.
Correct.
Thank you.
Resolution renewing the lease between the town of West Warwick and the Patuxent Valley Preservation Historical Society for the former Crofton Library Building, and further authorizing the Historical Society to construct an addition to the former Crofton Library Building.
I'll move the resolution.
Second.
Moved and seconded, discussion. Ernie, do we just want to go over this? So, and Jerry's here from the Historic Society. One thing that was discovered through this, Jerry came before the council a few years back, not everybody was aware of it. I did let Jay, considering this is his ward, so he and I were talking about this the other day to let him know that this was going to be coming before the council. The Historic Society came before the council a few years back asking to put an addition on the building down in Crompton. The council did approve that years ago. They talked about it, but then we found out through some paperwork that the lease has expired between the Historic Society and the town of West Warwick. So this is just renewing the lease so they can move forward with their future plans of the renovation down there at Crompton Library. Got everything there, Jerry?
And it'll cost the town nothing.
And yes, and it's on the Historic Society's dime, not the town's dime, just to let everybody know that.
I had the opportunity to tour the building, and it's amazing when you go in. And I had an excellent education of the Kent County area, and it brings back, some memories. But I encourage everyone to go in and check it out. And it's busting at the seams right now, and I think the addition is going to be excellent for Crompton. And it was, thank you for that, Mr. Tellier. But I do anything to improve the area, and this would be a big improvement.
Yeah, Jerry Tellier, President of the Historical Society. Basically, we're looking to put on a 24 by 30, 35 addition. Like you said, we're busting at the seams. The downstairs is not allowed to the public. We are making it handicap accessible. We met with the building inspector. I have not met with Ernie, but I had spoken with Fred Presley at the time, and everybody was on board. It was a different council, and we are going to do this addition with grants, and it's not for me. It's for the people of the town of West Warwick. And you know, Councilman Licciardi was there the other day. I think he was impressed of what we have inside.
There's so much there. I've been
There
there a
is,
few times over the
and
summer.
if there's any concern for the public about the Crompton playground, we will not be touching the playground. We'll be moving a fence like 15 feet, and it does nothing. It's just a separation issue. Other than that, everything's ready to go.
And for the record, you do some fundraisers. Do you still sell the posters and?
There's,
The Christmas
actually, if you go
ornaments?
on website, there's a store, they sell ornaments, they sell maps of these maps right here.
Yeah, I have the Phoenix map, and I have.
Yeah, the ornaments are cool. I got
Clyde.
the whole
I think it's Clyde.
Yeah, there's
And-
T-shirts,
Christmas.
hats,
They have the Christmas
and
ornaments.
we're actually working with former Councilman Giroux. He's putting a centennial book together, so we've provided a load of pictures and documents so that they can get the proper villages, descriptions right and stuff like that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time and dedication down there. Any other comment? Mr. Haru? Just state your name and address for the record.
Albert Hurrow, 21 Deborah Court. How long did the original lease last?
25 years?
This one's 20, yeah, this one is 25. I don't have a copy of
Okay,
the
there was-
previous lease, because my question is, we have a couple other leases out there that I want looked into. The property on
Payon Street.
Payon Street, which is a child care, is it Child Inc.?
Right.
That's $1 a year lease, and is their lease up, and we need to discuss that, you know? But we have to look at all our leases. I think Mark Carullo, after this was brought to his attention, started looking through these leases to make sure that they are correct. We do have Post 2, who has a lease with us, $1 a year.
And that's been like that for years from
But
most
again,
of them.
we don't know
Right.
if it's expired, so if
Right.
it's expired, we want to renew it, just so it's properly directed. And again, Child Inc., we have to look at what we want to do there also.
Do you plan on having all of them the same amount of time, or vary it based on the institution that's taking the lease?
It depends. For instance, that could be, it depends on the situation, but like the Post 2 here, I mean, we could do 25 years, but we could do life, you know,
Yeah.
whatever, we just gotta
Okay.
figure out what
Yeah.
we wanna do. You can't do life? Why not? All right, so we can do it in 25-year increments. The
All right.
only problem is, this falls under, this type of stuff falls under the radar.
No, that's why it expires, and then next thing you know, nobody remembers how long it, I mean, I
What's
remember
the
some of
maximum
them over
years you
years
can
when
do
I
then?
asked questions.
Well, the only reason we discovered it was because he found out he can't
99?
build, they didn't have a lease.
Yeah.
So
Do
that was the only
99
way
we'll
it
do
was discovered.
99 years for the.
I think as part of the comprehensive plan, the planner is gonna get together regarding any lease that's out there, notify the council, and then usually in incremental time frames, we'll look to council as to when they're coming up. But if it's gonna be a 99-year lease, no one's gonna be here anyway.
Well, that's the question, like 25 years from now, all of us
Right.
could be here, could not be here, it all depends, and who's gonna remember? I mean, not here up on stage, I hope not, but we may not remember what happened in 2018, you know, so somebody in town hall needs to keep record, but again, now an employee retires, and now you got all new employees, they forget about it, so again, this was a quick discovery, and we're gonna be going through all the leases.
No, the only reason I ask the question is sometimes, like you talk about 99-year lease, that's been done a lot in a lot of places.
Yeah,
That's
Jerry's
a long
has
period
one.
of time. We live in a different society today than 30, 40, 50 years ago, where 99-year lease didn't really
Well,
worry.
Just some of the complications from environmental matters, you can't have those types of 99-year leases anymore, because
Yeah.
things change so rapidly. So that's why I think what the plan is going to do is get all the information regarding all the outstanding leases, and then let the council know what the options are going to be moving forward.
And my last question is there a renewal option in that lease so they don't get, all of a sudden, a council can come up and say, we don't want you using the building more, we want the building back in town?
Usually that's addressed in the lease
Okay,
itself.
right. It just, that agency,
No,
others
they're
that I've been
protected.
into, they put a lot of effort into it, and it would be
I
a shame
agree.
to get kicked out.
Nope, we
All right.
agree 100%.
Thank you.
Thank you. And hopefully councils down the road realize that also.
Town managers report?
Wait a minute, I haven't
Oh,
taken a vote yet. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Town managers report.
Yes, good evening. I have two follow-ups from the last council meeting. The first is involving the animal shelter. The volunteer handbook has been revised. We've revised the insurance waiver indemnification. That's been reviewed by the interlocal trust. We have forms for sign-in sheets, and various forms have been updated, and at this point are in a final version and complete. We believe volunteers can come back to the shelter Monday, next Monday, March 5th. So the volunteer aspect has been resolved. The other aspect to the issue we had is a financial agreement with the Warwick Angels for caring for animals. So we have a framework of a draft, and the attorneys will be working together to have a draft which codifies what's been happening now. And that, once that's done, that will be submitted to the council and the board of West Warwick Angels. And hopefully that will be for the next council meeting. So that would be hopefully, and then at that point, depending upon the council's action, there would be no more issues involving volunteers or the Angels, and we can move forward with the shelter as it's been operating. So that's our expectation, so that's very positive news. The other issue that was discussed was our wind turbines. Wind turbines, all three are up and running just very recently. The test was performed yesterday, and it was successful. The recloser operated properly, and they are up and running. Now comes the point where we have to review our expenses, our damages, look to the manufacturer of the piece of equipment to see if that's under warranty. And if it is, what is reimbursed? If it's not under warranty, we have to look at what options we have, as well as we have the issue of 45 days of being without production. So that's an insurance issue and looking at that. So the good news is the turbines are back up, but there's a lot of work to be done to determine our expenses and damages and what recourses we have, for those. So good news and some work to be done.
Any questions for the manager? Thank you, Ernie.
Finance report?
Good evening, councilors. In your packet or on your tablets is the finance reports. I'm not going to read the whole memo. I'm just going to point out some highlights. I feel like this is my eyes. Tax collections are on target. We've gone through 3/4 of collections now as of January 31st, and we're at 72.42% collected. Ideally, 75% would be perfect, but we're very close. Prior year taxes are still trending low. Again, that 2.2 million was just too aggressive. The 3-year average is 1.7 million, and we're predicting it's going to come in close to that. Overtime, police and fire is still trending over budget, and we are standing firm with the numbers that we had come up with as far as what we think is going to come over budget. Overall, though, the departments are where they should be. They're staying within their budget guidelines, and they're curtailing their spending. Also, the meals and hotel taxes are trending over budget, so I do predict those are going to come in over budget, which is a good thing. Some highlights: our tax refunds were very successful. Like I had emailed you guys, the clerk, she got 6,800 checks out in 2 days, which I thought was amazing. The budget for fiscal year 2019 is coming along. Ernie and I are meeting on that on Thursday. The Municipal Transparency Portal report, which is the quarterly report to the state, was submitted last month in January. It came back with little to no errors, so you should be getting that soon to be signed and put up on the website. With that, they'll need our corrective action plan as well. And next month, I am going to start including projections as to where I think we're going to land for fiscal year 18. So,
Any questions for Kristen?
questions?
No, I do have one. You said that the overtime's over, but they're staying within budget. The question I have is, where they're spending on overtime is some individuals I know, police has somebody overseas, fire has somebody out, a couple of on-the-job injuries. So whatever it may be, they're saving on the employee aspect of
Yes.
it, but spending on overtime to cover those
Yeah.
employees that are out.
It's not a one-for-one ratio,
No,
obviously, but
that's
yes,
where some of the
some of the
savings-
salaries are trending under, which is covering it, and then they're curtailing their spending as well, which is also offsetting it. So we just need to do a better job budgeting for that number next year. Overall, they're doing a good job trying to stay within the confines of their budget.
Where do we stand with the budget as far as 2019?
I have everything in. Ernie and I are going to meet Thursday and start, and I need some numbers from Sal for the assessment part of it, and the new motor vehicle numbers. Talked to him about that today. He has to price about 2,000. So we are
So I was
moving
gonna-
along.
On that topic, I was going to ask you, when are we going to make those dates official for the
Well,
budget workshops?
That's the issue. I know the department heads have worked on their budget, I think. It's been brought back to Kristen and the manager. Now they need to bring their final to the council, and that's when we need to start scheduling. We are a little bit behind, only because of a lot of extra stuff going on that we've been focusing on. We've been in some negotiations, we've been into, this, John Hancock has tied up a little bit of our time. So it's pretty much taxed the town hall with public records requests, you name it. It's been taking time away from the budget. So personally, Ernie, we need to start focusing on that, get that out here, and so we know where we stand. This council, I know, is very eager to start working on that budget based upon the conversations I've had, well, the conversations I've heard here tonight. So, again, you know, as fast as possible.
Yep.
And accurate as possible.
I guess.
Not as fast, I want accurate too.
I believe the budget should be submitted to the council no later than the third Monday in March, so that's March 19th, so you'll get it way before then.
Any questions?
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Okay.
Kristen.
Thank you.
Nice job.
Thank you.
Board reports. 5.
I have a couple things that I wanted to address. One, if you've driven Greenbush, you know that the Madison Ridge development is well underway. They're working to clear the area fairly quickly. If you have any questions, feel free to call me. I'd be glad to take the time to answer them. I do have a concern that I wanted to address with you, Ernie. I actually forwarded this to Mark, but I didn't hear back from him. There have been 2 mattresses dumped along the road. And this is just my opinion. It's the opinion of a couple others. I don't have any proof. But I think as they're clearing the land, they're finding things, and they're tossing them. So in the 20 years that I've lived there, I've never seen a mattress dumped in that area. So I think they're finding it, and they're leaving it. DPW was really quick to react, and they picked them up quickly. But they shouldn't be dumping things.
I believe that's true. I know, Angela, when they cleared the land on the side of you, I know they put a lot of stuff in the back side of that lot, lining up all the people's lots over there. And I know you brought it up, and so it's possible that
Right.
that's happening, but we just gotta make sure.
I'm pretty sure that's what's happening. Like I said, I don't have substantial proof, but if you could address it with the developer, I would appreciate it, or turn it over to the building official. The other thing that I wanted to mention is the area of Monterey Drive, all the streets that intersect, Coolis, Cedar, Bayberry, Ponderosa. I did have a couple complaints, and I did discuss this with DPW, specifically with Freddie, and he addressed it. If you drive through, you can see that when the plow went through, some of the lawns have been torn up where they meet the pavement. I drove this area, and there's not one marker to be had in the area. So I would just make a request to anyone who's listening that you help DPW with the plowing, and that you put out these markers, because it's especially difficult when you don't have a curb and you have the pavement meeting the ground. It's almost impossible where the plow might not tear into it. especially at a high speed. But if they could back off a little bit, if they could actually see where the markers are and they could back off a little bit, we wouldn't have this issue. So I would just request that people make the purchase, buy these poles. They're only a couple bucks a piece. I have them in front of my house and post them.
I was actually, last year I was guilty of not putting my markers up, normally I do. And I actually sent Freddie a message with a picture and said, don't worry, I'll take care of this in spring. And he and I were joking back and forth. But this year I did put the markers up, and I have 0 damage to my lawn, so.
And you plow, we've been out on the plows, we know how difficult it is.
If you don't know where you're going.
You can't see it, so people have to realize that, and they need to mark their property.
And I have one, somebody, we don't know who, did a U-turn on the street, and it went right up on somebody's lawn with the plow and took out a good 8 inches of loom and about 12 feet long. So Freddie's still waiting for that to get fixed, by the way. It's been warm enough now, you know.
It depends on the day.
Anything else for
That's it.
5?
That's it.
4?
Well, I just have two things. One I want to address is call it a sinkhole, I guess. That's what people are calling it on Tyoke Avenue. And the issue here is multiple issues. Tyoke Avenue is a state road. So a lot of those questions came up. It came to, I hear police, it came to DPW, it was all over social media. Our sewer department went out and cambered the line 2 or 3 times. They did it before I requested it. Kent County Water had gone out. At that point, I called DOT. They were waiting for the findings before they wanted to do anything. However, it's right on the Coventry line. It's downhill. We know that everything runs downhill. And we're going to get a potential snowstorm over the weekend. So it's really the worst case scenario. But it turns out, and I had asked DPW, I asked Freddie to go out and just put a patch on it. We didn't want to, my concern was the manhole. We didn't want to lose the manhole, and the hole was pretty significant. So it was, I had reports of it. I drove over it. I mean, I bottomed on it. So Freddie came out with the understanding that we're not going to go out and fix state roads. That's up to them. But for the meantime, it was a Band-Aid. I made that very clear. And DOT, I spoke with the engineer at the sewer department after that. It is not a sewer issue. It is not a town of West Warwick issue. But we came out and put the Band-Aid on. So the public needs to know that. And DOT was out there. It was a work order in immediately right after. We had some nice days the very next week. And they were out there, the state was out there trying to fix it. So just want to let everybody know about that. The second issue is, I'm going to mention it because I guess it's a hot topic right now, given the shootings in Florida. We had a young man come up, a high school student, at the last meeting and spoke about bullying. And we all know bullying is everywhere. It's all over the world. But it is an issue. And, I'm trying to treat that like the homeless issue we had in Ward 4. It's, you want the best result possible, and it does take time. So I spoke with Susan St. Amand, the school committee member for Ward 4. That's why I'm bringing it up in the ward report. And we're on here for another 3 years. And we're going to get together. And I'll bring this to the council after we discuss a little bit more. But I just want to let everybody know, we're going to get together, and we're going to try and form, I don't want to use the word committee, and I don't want to use the word group, but something along those lines. And try and at least combat some of this problem and try and be proactive about it rather than reactive. And I know sometimes that's difficult, but she gave me some statistics today where it was just astounding, where even if it's 1% of the population that is being bullied, and then they become reactive to the situation they're in, I think that's too much. So we're going to get together. I'm going to address the council in a few weeks, maybe the end of the month, and see what we can do to find some sort of solution to involve many people in this. Not just kids and not just parents, but possibly the police, resource officers. I know everybody's busy, but the more I take it, the more people on board, the better, and hopefully we can try and do something about this. So that's all I have for Ward 4.
Thank you, Jay.
Thank you. So I want to thank everybody that came out this past Thursday at the West Warwick Senior Center. We We only had about a dozen people come out, but we had a ward meeting, involved myself, State Rep Jared Nunes, Senator Adam Satchel, and Louis Cologne of the school committee. I think it was a good meeting. We were there for about 2.5 hours or so. Covered a lot of topics, but I want to thank all the people that came out. It was a civilized meeting. It was pretty calm, with cookies. We had pizza, coffee. So thank you to everybody that came out. Number two, we could put this on the next agenda. And Ernie, if you could look into this, I want to find out where we're at officially with the playground over on Factory Street. I don't want the grant to run out. I want to make sure we get that taken care of. I know I promised Ed that. I know he had worked on that project, so I don't want this grant to run out. So if you could look into that and we can discuss it further at the next council meeting. And number three, something else on the next agenda that we're going to be covering, I'm not really going to go too much into detail because it's not on the agenda tonight, is term limits. I don't think anybody, myself included, belongs up here for more than 12 years. So we're going to be discussing that more next meeting, about possibly changing that and putting it up to vote in May. So discuss that more next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. 2, Lippert Mill, if anybody's driven by there, they're starting to strip the building down, the siding. The windows have been all removed. They'll be putting a new roof on shortly, so that project is well underway. Take a look at, if anybody's got time, driving by in the Phoenix area. Coming up from Phoenix, heading towards Wakefield Street, that side's being stripped. The building is basically planks sideways. There's no plywood, nothing. I don't know how even the shingles ever stayed on that long, but it's over 100 years old, but they stayed. But it's interesting to see the structure of the building as they're stripping it now, so here's your opportunity to see a little bit of history of West Warwick. Everybody knows Dollar Tree opened up over the last week. They were doing phenomenal. We were there, I've been there 3 times this week, and I think the place is gonna put me in a poorhouse. But it's amazing walking in there because the foot traffic that's going through there, and the one thing, they hired 22 employees. It's non-salary. They're gonna average about 280 hours a week combined, so there are a lot of part-time jobs. Out of those 22, I was informed 10 are from West Warwick. So hopefully with the other 2 dollar stores coming in, we'll see more jobs coming into West Warwick.
Not of the dollar stores, Dollar General, Family Dollar, let's be clear. You said 2
Well, the other dollar stores, meaning, you know what I mean.
Just clarifying for you.
Thank you.
Dave got shysted out of cutting the ribbon.
Yeah, some little girl took the scissors from me. Nah, I gave her the scissors, but I was a little lenient about giving a 5-year-old scissors. But Jay promoted me giving her scissors, by the way. Now, the bad news. Clyde Bridge. Sat in a meeting today with the chiefs and DOT and Fred Gill. Clyde Bridge is going to be closed one way starting March 5th into 6th. They're going to be working overnight into the 5th and the 6th. Now, with that being said, school buses and emergency vehicles will have the right of way, 2-way. There will be a police detail on site from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. So we definitely need to pay, we're going to be paying close attention because there will be Jersey barriers on one side blocking the road. So we're going to have some issues there. We will keep close eye on that. The other issue that came above, and Angelo, I bring it up to you tonight, again, I found about this afternoon, is trucks and buses. There's only going to be 2 ways, and it's going to be Woodside Avenue and Wakefield Street.
I talked to the chief already.
All right, so just want to give you a heads up there. You know, we're going to get complaints. We're going to get the calls. Again, the reason being is because Clyde Bridge is closed. This is not going to be a 1-month thing. This is looking mid-summer up to possibly Labor Day. Just let you know, and I did make it clear that we do have a parade there in September, and they're still not sure if they'll be done. But it's worst-case scenario. We don't know. It depends on the weather, depends on the spring.
They built the Autobahn in 6 months in Germany.
Well, Angelo, you had a bridge in your ward a few years back that took how many years? 3?
Well, it wasn't the
But again-
contractors, I guess it was the engineers for the state.
I just want to let you know that's, you know, again, I just want to make everybody aware.
Oh, yeah, 3 years, 2.5.
I'm hoping that doesn't happen. Chief?
Just, I'm not sure if we need to do anything with the ordinance about the no-through trucking. Maybe if I'll reach out to LT Fiorio, but I'm not sure if we have to put up.
We're just not gonna enforce it.
Okay,
Yeah, it's up to you not to.
Yeah.
enforce
okay,
it, I guess.
as long as you guys
Time.
are right, if they don't need anything official on that.
Listen, the big trailer trucks, you can enforce them, John.
The state will be putting up, I'm assuming, the appropriate signage.
Correct.
So I don't think it's gonna be a local issue, but if it is, we can address it.
Thank you.
And I'm sure some of the local businesses down in that Phoenix area are gonna be highly affected. Dunkin' Donuts, Messi's, you know, those are gonna be individuals that are gonna go to the other side of town now to get coffee and avoid that traffic. There was something else, but that's all I have.
So,
If I
so,
remember.
so if a truck has to deliver, yeah, they gotta come down Wakefield Street instead of like your Domino's or Dunkin' Donuts, now they're gonna have to go around, either up
Well, that's
Wakefield or
gonna-
around, or all the way around Woodside.
It's gonna definitely affect Domino's because
They're right there, yeah.
they're right there and they can only go around to Fairview Ave and come up that
Yeah,
way.
that's
So
what I was
all the
thinking, yeah.
delivery drivers, it's gonna affect them.
'Cause which direction is it gonna go? Okay.
So for instance, if they got a delivery at Maple Avenue.
No, I understand, but I didn't know which way the traffic
They
was
might be
going.
able to run it up there faster than driving
Yeah.
because they have to go all the way around now. But, Angelo, Ward 1?
Just a few things, Freddie's still here? Yeah.
He's in the back.
Morningside, Tanglewood, number 16. I sent you the pictures, right? Yeah. Them curbs, Freddie, and, you know, the nice lady that lives there, she lost her husband, she's by herself, it's bothering her, they chewed up every curb in there is on there. I mean, that's gotta be fixed. I mean, that's our fault, we chewed it up, and, whatever we gotta do to fix that for her. You got the one on Woodland, where that was all chewed up, and he had the stakes on his property, they demolished everything. So that's why I asked you who had that, if it was a newbie. But, I mean, I just don't understand why they're going that close. I mean, they hit a curb, they keep going and rip the curbing right out. I mean, that's,
You gotta feel that.
yeah, I mean, you know, I plowed all these years. I mean, when you go to hit a curb, you know you're hitting it. You push out, you don't go 50 feet and start ripping up curbing. So that's not on them, that should be on us, and whatever we gotta do to fix that for her, I would appreciate it. That's about it, except for the traffic on Wakefield Street, but
All right, and I forgot one thing. East Main Street, you know, I was questioned how Jay got the state road fixed faster than East Main Street. East Main Street, I've been in contact with DOT, Nicole Pope. Also, last year I had Freddie have Cardi give an estimate to do East Main Street. I'm forwarding that estimate over to Rhode Island DOT. They're focusing on it. We have a couple of issues, so they're looking at possibly planing the trouble areas and fixing those. The question I have is, it's on Kent County Water Authority's 2018 project, but we all know, and Jay, in your ward, it was about a 5-year difference from when it was supposed to be done to when it was. So I've made it very clear that we can't wait till 2023 to fix East Main Street and Pike Street. So the state is looking at it, seeing what they can do. Obviously, they have budgets and statewide planning throughout the entire state of Rhode Island, but it has been brought to their attention numerous times. Again, emails, and I also got to say, you know, a lot of people, I've given them the information on how to contact DOT. I'm one person, the town's one person, they think we're being vocal. But as you're having damage claims, and anybody who's called me with a damage claim there, I have emailed or given them over social media the claim form. I've explained to DOT that they probably spend about $10,000 to $15,000 a year in patching that, not including what we pay. Because sometimes we have to go out on an emergency case basis and put cones out or put the cold patch in just to help the state out. I've let them know that, you know, they've done, in my entire 12 years, it's been that way. It's always after it rains, in March, April, it becomes Beirut. So I told them that that money that you spent, if you can fix the road, and I think the price was about $160,000 to cold plane and do the overlay, was you wouldn't have to worry about it every year. We would not have any issues for the next 5 or 10 years in there. So I think they're finally listening, and the Representative Nunes is in the area. He's also at the state level pushing for that road to get done. So again, it's not falling on deaf ears. We're just trying to work on it, and we're at the state's mercy, unfortunately. I got so sick of it last year that I had Freddie get a price and see if we can do it ourselves and have the state reimburse us over a couple of years or something, if that's the worst case scenario. But Mark, and I went in and had a meeting with Mark Carullo today. He's actually gave me the paperwork that he's requested from the state to get that road done. So, again, we're at the mercy of the state. Thank you.
Ordinance number 2018-2, second reading, sponsored by Council President Goslin. An ordinance amending Chapter 14, Police, Article 1, in general sections of 14-3, fee for licenses of police constables, and 14-4, fee of licenses of constable with power to serve, process of the Code of Ordinance of the Town of West Warwick.
Move the ordinance.
Second.
Moving second, we discussed this last month, it's basically fee structure. Al's not here tonight, but any questions on that? Any public comment? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Yes.
Jay?
Yes.
Angelo?
Yes.
Jason?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
And I vote yes.
Ordinance number 2018-3, second reading, sponsored by Council President Goslin, an ordinance amending Article 6, Section 8-93, refuse in trash facilities of the Code of Ordinances of the Town of West Warwick.
Move the ordinance.
Second.
Moving second, any questions on this? We discussed this as a second reading. Any public comment? Hearing none, roll call vote. Jay?
Yes.
Angelo?
Yes.
Jason?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
And I vote yes.
Ordinance number 2018-4, second reading, sponsored by Council President D'Amico, an ordinance amending
There you
Chapter
go,
4, Animals and Fowl, Article 5, Pet Stores of the Code of Ordinance of the Town of West Warwick.
Move the ordinance.
Second.
Moved and seconded, discussion?
So just to refresh your memory, this is an ordinance that basically would, for future businesses that want to sell pet supplies or what have you, they would not be allowed to sell dogs or cats. Again, to try to stave off the puppy mills.
I think if you saw State Rep Patty Serpa has something that's
She's trying to do it at the state level.
But state level, like where
Yes,
everything, so
absolutely.
that would like
Across the
affect.
board.
Yeah, across the board, so no stores would be able to sell dogs or cats.
That's correct.
So you're a little bit ahead of the game there, thanks, John.
Any questions? Any public comment? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Yes.
Jay? Yes. Angelo?
Yes.
Jason?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
And I vote yes.
Ordinance number 2018-5, second reading, sponsored by Town Council, an ordinance authorizing the town manager to implement a fiscal year 2018 budget corrective action plan intended to assist in preventing the occurrence of a deficit.
I'll move the ordinance.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Ernie?
Yes, this, last week I gave a sort of a lengthy presentation about the issues that we see. We do believe we have some revenue shortfalls. We do believe we have expenditures that will be over budget, and we have expenditures that were not budgeted that we anticipate. As I indicated, what we tried to do is look at what we believe, what we know is going to happen, believe, and what may happen in presenting this plan. I'd rather come back to the council and say, we did better than this plan, and then come back and say, okay, we don't have to make some of these changes and make a recommendation and ratchet some back. I would not want to be in a position where I'd come to the council and say, this, what we have is not enough to cover a deficit. So just the long and short of it, I can repeat some of the highlights of the last meeting. But again, I believe that this plan will ensure that we will not be in a deficit if in fact that we end the year better than what we expect with this plan. The question was, who would make a decision to reduce some of the expenditures? Because some of the revenue side expenditures were sums not to exceed. I'd be more than happy to come back to the council. This is where we believe, and we can reduce some of these expenditures. But at this point, we need to ensure that we will end the year in the black, and that's my recommendation. So.
Any questions for Ernie? Any public comment? Hearing none, roll call vote. Jason? Jay?
I'm saying no, and this is why. Ernie, I know, same thing I said last week. I know you put a lot of work into it. I don't doubt it, but I don't really want to touch the fire rescue fund. I just think it's not broken. Let's leave it alone. There's a lot of other things that are broken. I just don't feel comfortable touching that, and that's why I'm saying no. That's it.
Angelo?
No, I'm gonna vote no also, and my reasoning is the same as the first reading. This isn't a corrective action plan. This is kick the can down the road plan. We're taking monies that we have to replace that we'll be begging for next time, using the fire money, in particularly, when I haven't seen any cuts, I haven't seen the dead weight, I haven't seen anything happen that, so my reasoning, I vote no.
Jay?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
I'm voting yes for the reasoning of, I have faith in my town manager that we just hired to work with this budget and give him the ability to work with this budget. Again, it's a budget that he adopted, unfortunately, with some bad numbers, and they need to be corrected. Do I agree with taking money out of certain areas? Absolutely not. But what I will say is, you know, I've showed ways of saving $260,000 here tonight, much earlier in the meeting. And, you know, we need to find ways to save money, absolutely. But again, I don't want to be sitting here in July and August saying we're $1.2 million short, where do we get it? And we don't have the ability to move that money at the time.
I heard the same thing for 5 years straight, and we don't learn by our mistakes.
No, unfortunately, we didn't hear the same thing 5 years straight.
Oh, yes, we did.
No, we heard opposite, Angelo. We heard everything's going great. We heard from a finance director and a town manager that we're ahead of budget. So we didn't hear the same exact thing.
Okay.
The last 2 years we have. Last year, which was last August, which was brought before us from the planning group, and now this year. And again, there are some solid numbers in there that should have been right on the money. The insurances should have been right on the money, not $150,000 short combined. So again, I'm hoping, and that's why I said earlier to Kristen, we want accurate numbers for this budget, because we're only as good as the budget or the numbers that are supplied to us. And if your department heads are giving you fake numbers to the town manager, or the town manager's giving us fake numbers, and we have to go by their numbers, because
I never went by their numbers, but I fell on deaf ears. So maybe you should have took my advice instead of theirs.
Okay. So I vote yes, 3-2.
Discussion action, James Scott presenting Teen Tattoo Awareness, sponsored by Council President Goslin.
Yes, Mr. Scott contacted me via Facebook. Come on up, Mr. Scott. Contacted me via Facebook, and he wants to, I gave him some direction, because I think he's gonna be going out to the school committee, and he also runs a local tattoo parlor here in West Warwick. So if you would just wanna give your, presentation.
Sure. My name is James Scott. I live at 14 Hepburn Street. So I'm going to follow your direction, and I'm going to go to the school committee. Problem is my 15-year-old got a tattoo. So I own a tattoo shop, and I realize that there's a problem in our community. Problem is that a lot of underage kids are wanting to get tattoos. Naturally, it's against the law. I deny them. But what really made me want to bring it to light was my 15-year-old got a tattoo, and I'm just gonna really squash this really quick, but so like, I'm sorry, I'm just like really nervous. 1 in 5 people that get a home tattoo contract some kind of virus, whether it be hepatitis C or some other bloodborne pathogen. So the problem is really it's a health problem. So I'm going to bring it to the school committee, and the school nurse seen that this tattoo had happened, and I wasn't even made aware of it, and my wife wasn't made aware of it. And back in my day, the parents would have certainly been made aware of it. And in our community now, it's become socially acceptable for our children to be tattooed, apparently, in our community. And I find a problem in that. There's some kind of systemic problem. So with that being said, I just really want to table something other than that. We don't have any kind of youth programs, really, in our community, it seems. We don't have a youth center. Is there any kind of thing that can be done with that?
Mr. Scott, we do have a youth center, it's right here on Factory Street. It's run by the local police department. They're there until, I think, 8 PM.
I have two teenage kids. I have an 18-year. I've lived in this town for 5 years. I have an 18-year-old. She's now 18. I have a 15-year-old, and a lot of kids are in and out of my house. None of them go there. There's no art programs. I had talked previously. There's no art programs. There's not a lot of programs that are going on. Me myself have been raised in the Pawtucket Providence area. There was constant coming and goings of art programs. We had all sorts of things going on in the city. How come there are no things being brought to this city?
I can sum it up. We don't have a recreation department, period.
That's a problem.
I think so. I'm a recreation guy. And whether it's a recreation department or Boys and Girls Club, that's where those things happen at. We do have the Civic Center that's more for events and athletics. And but as far as the programs that you're talking about, we don't have them because we don't have anybody to do that.
These kids just have too much idle time on their hands, and they're doing these things, and it's just like there's. I mean, I personally am willing to donate my time for free with art programs, teaching these kids to draw, teaching them. I mean, if there was. If there was time in this youth center, I would donate my time for free. Socioco, a friend of mine owns Socioco. He had an open gallery. We've been talking about having more open galleries and bringing drawing programs. And I have friends who have break dancing and stuff like that down at AS 220. We would love to bring programs like that to the city. Is there any way we can do that?
We'll have to look and see who wants to be involved. I know there are some programs at the youth center, different nights.
I've never even heard of the youth center.
Well, it's been there for over 12 years.
I would take a visit.
It's been there. You can go there. There's kids there every day. I sat there with Councilman D'Amico with Students Against Destructive Decisions last week. And while we were in there talking about tobacco stuff, there were other kids in other rooms doing many different things.
Pool table, there's
There's
hockey, there's basketball aside.
There's games there, there's events. Who else, who mans that, Chief? Sandra and?
Yeah, Lieutenant Malloy, Lieutenant Sergeant Morris, Patrolwoman Mariucci, and the school resource officer works out there as well.
Yeah, so, I mean, they are there, it's just maybe not as advertised as
They
you would
really
like.
have like set programs like James Talking Rec, so to speak. The kids kind of mingle after school and hang out.
And you can actually.
I'm definitely glad there is one. I just maybe think that we should look into maybe having more programs there and things of that nature, because there's definitely, I mean, I see on social media all the time there was just vandalism, and there's all sorts of problems with ours. Our community has a huge youth problem, and they're just, I mean, they're freaking delinquents, I'm sorry, but like, really.
Well, I just want to go back, because I know James didn't really hit on it, but
I didn't, because I'm just gonna bring it to the school committee.
Yeah, but again, what he brought to my attention, and I think Tom called me on it also, because Tom had spoken to him. What seems to be going on, it's just like some individuals are working, kids are, you know, I've seen where kids cut each other's hair or whatever at their house. Well, now it's kids doing each other's tattoos out of their house. Yeah. And they think it's a situation, and he brought it up, and since he brought it up here tonight, it happened to his son. Unfortunately, he was unaware in the situation at the school where his son had to go to the nurse's office.
Daughter, I think.
He's not the,
My son.
and he's not the only individual that may be getting these tattoos. And before something happens or these kids get sick, he wants to bring
Yeah.
it before
Well,
the
the
school
thing
committee
is
and the town council, just to be aware. And also, I told him that he also needs to let the police departments know, because, the police department, because if they do catch these kids doing this, you know, it is, you know.
It is against the law.
I
The law's
would
not
be
being
livid
enforced.
if my daughter came home with a tattoo at
One in five,
at the age of
according to the
15.
CDC, one in five people that are home tattooed contract some kind of bloodborne pathogen, right? 75% of baby boomers have hepatitis C, right? So, and people, hepatitis C testing is not a standardized test. So if you contract hepatitis C, you don't know it. And hepatitis C stays alive in the open air for more than a week, and it's trace blood amount. So if you touch just a small part during the tattoo process, a week later you touch this part again, a little thing on the table, you've transmitted that. These kids, I guaranteed one in five children that have been tattooed. Do you see how many kids in this town have been tattooed? And they've been tattooed illegally.
I understand that.
It's a
but-
public
but-
health
but-
risk.
But part of it too is I think a parental issue. I mean, I have kids. I have 4 kids.
I agree with you
And I
wholeheartedly.
we would have words. We would have a lot of words. But I also, after the fact, but I also would address it prior to the fact. It's
education.
It's knowing. I think knowing your child, and they're gonna do some silly things and some stupid things.
Correct me if I'm wrong, I'm sure you've
But-
had these conversations.
Yeah,
tattoo artists
and
before,
the thing
kids don't
is
always
they
listen to
think
their
they're
parents.
invincible. They think they're invincible,
Absolutely.
and then my kids are like, "Oh, well, you have tattoos,"
exactly,
and they're like, "Yeah, I didn't start getting tattooed till I was 27, and I was a tattoo artist, and I knew I was going to be doing this for the rest of my life." Now this kid's got a horrible tattoo, and he's probably not going to get a good job, or he's going to be doing a roofing for the rest of it. I don't know what he's, but I don't know. But thank you for hearing me, council
Thank
members.
you very
I
much.
definitely
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Sorry.
No, thank you.
Senior Center Council Liaison, sponsored by Council Vice President D'Amico.
So Barbara Tabak reached out to me recently. I guess Ed Giroux had been the liaison for the council, and he was not replaced, so she asked if I would be willing to take that position. And I said I'd ask the council. So I'm more than willing to do that.
Anybody else have an issue? I don't have an
No.
issue. Usually we put the senior citizen on there, but
Put the,
Ed was the oldest
Yeah,
guy.
well-
Ed was the oldest guy. Now it's Angela's the oldest guy up here.
I got enough going on.
Do we need
John's
to even
John's
vote
not
on
as
this?
John's not as young as that
Kinda what we
baby
did
face
with-
makes
That's right.
you
I'm,
believe.
I'm up
Yeah,
there.
if you want, yeah, if John,
Well
that's what
said,
you
John.
want to do.
You're
it's-
appointed.
It's all yours.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
We
Everybody's
could
laughing, don't laugh.
put it on the next agenda just for
You want it as a
appointment.
resolution?
Yeah.
Okay. Resignation from the Library Board of Trustees, resolved that the.
Just
town-
make sure it's the liaison to the council, so nobody thinks we didn't advertise that for 4 weeks, that it was an appointment.
Yeah.
So you want it.
That's what it says here
Right.
anyway.
Does it?
Yeah.
Yes, Senior Center Council Liaison.
All right, I'm sorry.
Just add town council liaison.
Okay. I lost my spot.
We're on resignation from Library Board of Trustees.
Resolved that the town council hereby acknowledges the resignation from Brian Tucker of the Library Board of Trustees for the town of West Warwick.
Somebody wanna-
Move the resolution.
Second.
Move and second, any discussion?
We already accepted this.
Did we just put them on?
We did about a year, less than a year ago. He just had to resign. He didn't give me any reasons, so.
Resignation accepted.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. If we could just send him a thank you letter for his time and service. He was a former councilman also, so,
Do all the time.
thank you.
Resignation from the Board of Tenant Affairs, resolved that the resolved that the town council hereby acknowledges the resignation from Nancy C. Lorenz of the Board of Tenant Affairs from the town of West Warwick.
Move the resolution.
Second.
Moved and seconded. We just appointed her recently
Yep.
too, so she resigned. Any
Accept the
questions?
resignation.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Again, just send her a thank you letter.
Appointment for the Pension Board, resolved that the town council hereby appoints the following individual to serve as a member of the West Warwick Pension Board for the town of West Warwick with the term to expire on November 18 of 2021, and this was previously tabled.
I would leave it, I would make a motion to leave it tabled.
Can I, before we do, can I ask a question? I know this has come before us 3 times. Nobody else has put in for it. This individual wants to. He is part of the pension system. I'm not sure why we keep tabling. Do you have any reasons why?
Well, yeah, I have a lot of reasons why.
Well, can you share?
I don't think that he's capable for running the pension board from when he was our DP director, what he did with the road bond money and different things that went on. The least we need right now is someone incompetent to get on, and I think he's incompetent, to be on the pension board to make decisions like he did when he was the DPW director, and we're all still paying the price for that, so that is my reason.
Any other questions? We'll keep it on the table then.
Well, he moved it, somebody's got a second.
I'll second.
So I'm not voting on it, table it.
All in favor? To keep it
Of
tabled?
tabling it?
Yeah.
Aye.
All in
Aye.
favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Appointment for Technology Committee. Resolved that the Town Council hereby appoints the following individuals to serve as a member of the West Warwick Technology Committee for the Town of West Warwick with the term to expire on December 31st of 18.
I'll move the resolution.
Second.
Moving second, discussion?
So, as you know, I was given the responsibility of trying to get the technology board up and running, the technology committee. Mr. Lee, we spoke at length recently. He's here. Thank you for taking the time out of your schedule to come tonight. We ran a little bit late, so I appreciate that. But he is certainly, in my estimation, very knowledgeable. He's absolutely willing to help. I think we're lucky that he'll be coming in at the ground floor. So asking for his appointment, and then hopefully tomorrow I'll be sending out a letter to everyone so that we can organize our first meeting.
Move his name.
So I move the name of Keith Lee.
I'll second.
Moved and second, any discussion? Any public discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Congratulations, Mr. Lee, and good luck. Upcoming appointments, Planning Board, Technology Committee, Sewer Use Board of Review, Pension Board, Juvenile Hearing Board, Board of Assessment Review, West Warwick Public Library of Trustees, West Warwick Housing Authority, Board of Tenant Affairs, public comment. Mr. Haru, you had a comment you wanted to?
Yes, sir.
Before we, can I just ask one quick question?
Yeah, go ahead.
With this, I mean, we always have upcoming appointments. The, with the technology committee, while it's on the ground level, I always see Ward 2, 3, and 5. Do we have anybody for Ward 4? I don't think so. And are we gonna make this, obviously, somebody with, not just to put a person on there, but somebody who is into technology, who knows what they're doing?
Right.
But do we have, do you know, John, if we have anybody for Ward 4? Currently on
I
there?
think,
I think the only one that's on
I'm not sure what wards they're from, to be
Because
honest.
I would like my
You better
ward
have those
represented.
records of that.
The
Well,
ones
no,
that
'cause
are
we have-
listed are the ones that are still open, except for the one that, you guys just appointed tonight, which I'm putting that person in.
And
Okay,
Ward
so who
1,
is- So who represents Ward 4 on this committee?
whoever you choose.
Well, you said these are the only ones open.
Yes. those are
So
the
that
ones
means
open.
we have somebody for Ward
I
4
don't know
in
if
place.
Zach-
There's one
No.
opening right now. So, is it Ward 4?
It's not Ward 1. I don't know which one's open. Which one, Paula? I mean,
Well,
they
well,
were all full except
Hey,
for
you
one.
don't have to let me know right now,
They
Paula.
weren't, they were not all
John
full.
Vitello might be four.
There was one or
No,
two.
Ward 3 we have, because
No,
I know
they
Chris Messi is in
Patello might be
3.
four.
So maybe it's,
Christopher Messi, I believe, came.
so maybe it's
Oh,
written,
Messi's four.
maybe it's,
No,
no,
that's not
Messi is
valid
Ward
for
3,
us.
so maybe it's written wrong, because Messi is Ward 3, so that's not open.
Well, you guys weren't
Let's
doing
just
them
get-
by ward anymore,
Yeah,
Let's,
just
let's
get
do
those.
this.
We had talked
Tomorrow,
about
just
last
give
time.
us the names and where they represent, please.
because I thought you guys weren't doing them by ward.
Because we're gonna sit there and say 3, 2, 1, and nobody knows where they really
No,
are.
I just wanted, I'd like to have my ward represented if possible.
No, I understand.
But what's listed on the agenda, that is where it's open.
Okay.
If it's Ward 4, it's Ward 4.
I think
So
he's
just
right, I
tell-
think it is
so-
incorrect, because Chris Messi does have the Ward 3, so I think it is incorrect. It must, maybe it's misprinted here, I don't know. I know Chris
We'll find
Messi is
out.
the
No
representative.
And
of
the
Ward
only,
3.
the only
Figure it
reason
out.
I'm asking is because with the recreation committee, it was by ward.
Councilman,
So-
Mr. Messier, when he was appointed, lived in Ward 4.
No, that's not true.
No, he didn't, he lived in Ward
No,
3,
he
he moved
moved
before
one
I got
before that.
elected.
You sure?
I'm 100% positive, because he left the
'Cause he
school
lived
committee
on
before I,
Grace. All right, all right.
nope, he,
All right, so let's just find out tomorrow. 'cause
Yeah,
this
that's
is gonna
all.
be late.
Let's-
It's getting
Paula,
too late
Paula,
for
give me a
this.
call, please, that's all.
4,
I'll
3,
tell
2,
you at the
1.
end of the meeting.
Just give
I
5
think
people
I'm
on the
my
board.
office.
Mr. Haru?
My question is regarding the pension board appointee being tabled, meeting after meeting. No one else has applied, to my understanding, is that correct?
No, but as of right now, the only one we have is Paul Thomas.
Okay. We've been trying to do things in the pension board, some of the votes and stuff for people in positions that we've held off so that because we know there's going to be another appointment, so in all fairness to that individual, had input into that. But some things we don't want to hold off forever,
We need
it's just-
capable people. I'm not gonna make a decision and putting incompetent people on that board when we're in the trouble we're in. So if it takes a week or 4 weeks or 4 months, I'm not gonna vote for someone that's incompetent of handling what they have to handle.
And we still have another position open besides that one too, correct?
I don't, oh, you got an alternate position?
Yep.
Yes, the two that you.
That were done by legislation.
Yeah,
Right.
they're still
So
open.
if no one applies for them, then we're gonna, and if this one keeps getting tabled and no one else applies, we're gonna basically stay where we're at, status quo as far as the active members we have right now.
You have a quorum, you
Right.
have 4.
Right. But that's the other thing too.
Somebody will, you know what it is, the Times hasn't been putting anything in the paper, not that a lot of people get it anyway, but
But it is on the Town of West Warwick website.
it's on the website.
It is on the
but-
website.
It's on the bottom of the agenda.
I mean,
Oh,
if
Al,
you
if
know
you- if
someone
you
with
know
a
someone-
financial background,
Well,
put their names in.
Yeah, we, the different organizations, the police and fire retire, and that, we do it all the time. Almost monthly, send out the notices and that and so forth. It's just if no one's gonna apply and we get the individual apply, and I understand you table it for your reasons, not a problem with that. But if it's gonna be like that and we know for sure, then we can make some decisions and go without it. We're just trying to be fair for the people coming in, because we're thinking of coming in the next month. So some things we can wait on for voting, but that can't happen forever. So
Conduct
we just need
business as
to know
usual.
what you're gonna do, so we can keep on going and getting on the right track. Because we don't wanna set up the structure, chairman and all of that, and then somebody comes in the next month and get promoted, in where they would've had a chance to go for a position if they were interested, at least say so, you know?
I know I asked Mr. O'Connell last month if he wanted to go on.
Yeah,
Well, might
yeah,
change his
he's
mind
been asked
now.
more than once, so.
Could always go back on if you'd like.
Yeah. All right, thank you for your input.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion,
Any other public comment?
motion to adjourn.
I second.
All in favor? Aye. Have a good night.
Your thing's back. Angela's been eyeing them all night.